Issues, Deputy Kevin Humphreys. To the Minister of Environment, Community and Local Government to need to hold a plebiscite for a directly elected mayor for Dublin City. The Deputy has 4 minutes to make initial statement and the Minister of State has 4 minutes to reply. Minister Humphreys, Deputy Humphreys.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for taking this. Minister, the local elections are over and the political landscape has changed. However, the need of a directly elected mayor for the Dublin City is not gone away. Minister, I know you have very strong feelings and very strongly committed towards this idea. Minister, the people of Dublin should be allowed to have their say in a plebiscite next year at the same time as the marriage equality referendum. The 4 local authorities in Dublin cover a population of nearly 1,300,000 people. Dublin is not competing with Cork, Limerick or Galway. It is competing against cities of the world such as London, Singapore, Cape Town and Geneva. Dublin needs a strong voice. It needs a single voice. It needs a voice with a mandate. And that's why I believe that this city needs a directly elected mayor. We recently completed a process for considering a directly elected mayor as laid out in the Local Government Reform Act 2014. Many said it was doomed to failure from the beginning, but the Forum of 22 elected councillors tabled a proposal that was overwhelmingly endorsed by councillors of 3 of 4 Dublin councils. There were legitimate reasons for Fingal councillors to vote against the proposal for a plebiscite, but I do not believe it should be dropped completely. I also would have concerns about splitting the functions of the IDA and Enterprise Ireland under a Dublin mayor, but a mayor must have an economic role. Minister, I would ask you to call the mayors and chairs of each of the councils to restart the process. I would ask you to meet with them in the next few weeks and see how that process could be started. My reading of the legislation is that it would have to be amended to allow a further vote at a council level. And I would ask you to consider bringing these small amendments to the House quickly. Failing that, the government should convene a convention for Dublin, modelled on the Constitutional Convention. We need more public debate on what a mayor should do, what powers he should have, and the important elements of transport, housing and environment issues that are so important to this city. Bringing ordinary citizens together with their councillors, business and community organisations, and build the support and tease out the problems in a democratic way. All stakeholders should have a say in crafting a proposal to put Dublin first and to put the people of Dublin first. Such a convention could address the problems in this or in the original proposal, but public support and allow Dubliners to have their say. I think people want a vote. They were stopped this year due to a small minority of councillors. But we have the time, the space now to rethink, redo, reinvigorate the proposal that can shape the future of our capital city. Minister, I would ask you to act over the next couple of weeks, as I said earlier on, by bringing together the new chairs and mayors of this city, to bring forward a proposal that would allow us to elect a directly elected mayor of our capital city. I think this would be progressive. I believe you're committed to yourself, and I think it would be a fine legacy if this could be carried out and the plebiscite take place next year. Thank you, Chair.
Now calling the Minister to make a statement. You have 4 minutes, Minister.
I wish to thank Deputy Humphreys for raising this important matter. As he knows, establishing a directly elected mayor across the area of 4 local authorities in Dublin has been subject to a number of attempts by governments over the years, and indeed a number of changes of heart by those governments as well, with a lack of structure to consultation with the local representatives or indeed with the people of the Dublin metropolitan area. And within the framework of the Local Government Reform Act 2014, I did provide, for the first time, a more consultative and indeed bottom-up approach in regard to the creation of an office of directly elected mayor for the metropolitan area of Dublin. The choice of whether we have a plebiscite remained as was always envisaged, that is to say, to be a local plebiscite, allowing the elected councils in the first instance and the electorate in Dublin secondly to decide on whether Dublin should have a directly elected mayor and the range of functions for the office. In recognition of the democratic mandate as local public representatives, and in the best traditions of representative democracy, the elected councillors in Dublin were given an opportunity to present a proposal in respect of their vision for an office of directly elected mayor, which was developed by a forum of the elected members from across the Dublin authorities, which was representative of a wide range of political perspectives. Each of the local authorities took their own decision on whether there should be a plebiscite in the light of what they felt was best for the area that they represented. There was a clear divergence on the view of the role of an office of directly elected mayor as between Fingal County Council and the 3 other local authorities in Dublin, leaving us with no consensus of what model for the office could be put in a plebiscite in tandem with the recent local and European elections on the 23rd of May. In our system of representative democracy, it would have been wrong to ignore the views of Fingal and to have put a proposal to the electorate that did not enjoy the support of all of the 4 authorities in the region. My immediate focus has now switched to bedding down the very significant reforms of the local government system generally that have been introduced on the 1st of June this year. The meetings of 30 of the new councils last Friday is a further welcome step in the reform programme, and I look forward to the meetings of the new municipal district members being completed over the rest of this week and early next week. The changes that we have brought about in local government are the most important changes across the country in more than a century, and their successful implementation will greatly improve local government and the role it plays in representing local communities in economic, community and social development. However, that is not to say that following a period of reflection, proposals for a directly elected mayor for Dublin could not be revisited. I want to assure Deputy Humphreys and the House that I am committed to the concept of a directly elected mayor for Dublin. The Government remains committed to the notion of a plebiscite for a directly elected mayor for Dublin, and it appears that it is back to me to come up with a fresh initiative in view of the failure of the forum to achieve that consensus. This must take account of the differing views, significant in some respects, between the different local authorities in relation to the role that such an office should have. And this will require engagement with the 4 authorities and all the relevant government departments at a time most likely to maximise the prospects for agreement on a meaningful proposal to put to the electorate and to maximise the prospects for success in the ballot box. In that context, clear consideration would have to be given not just to how an office of a directly elected mayor would impact on functions that are currently discharged at central government level, but also to consider how the current 4 Dublin local authorities' functional remit would be affected by such an office. And it is my intention to write to the newly elected mayors and Cathaoirleach of those local authorities and to invite them to a meeting in the Custom House in early July this year, where we can discuss how, working together, we will take the directly elected mayor issue forward.
Thank you, Minister. The Deputy has 2 minutes for a supplementary statement.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, can I recognise what the Minister said by inviting the chairs and the mayors in July to the Custom House to discuss how this can be taken forward. Because I believe this is fundamentally important to Dublin City, that we develop a directly elected mayor role. Everybody that has been consulted in relation to this so far has been a citizens' forum run by former Lord Mayor Oisin Quinn in the Mansion House and elected councillors. As I said in my previous submission, was that the 3 of the local authorities voted overwhelmingly for a plebiscite to be taken, and it was Fingal. And I do recognise their legitimate rights. But one of the fundamental groups that were not consulted was the citizens of Dublin. They hadn't got the opportunity to vote in a plebiscite. We have a unique position that we will have a referendum next year. Knowing the work rate of the Minister, I believe he's well capable of bringing together a consensus to allow us to have that plebiscite. Now we can work with the original legislation, which would mean small amendments to that to allow the plebiscite to go forward, or to hold a convention for Dublin, where we engage with the citizens, the small and medium-sized business and local groups in bringing forward a proposal. The strongest element for a mayor of Dublin is a democratic mandate. And from that democratic mandate, power can be built. As I said, Dublin is competing on an international basis for inward investment. I think a single office of a mayor for Dublin for 1.3 million people will allow Dublin to compete on an international scale on attracting foreign direct investment into this city. I think there is enormous challenges in sustainable development, employment, in arts, in culture, in housing, in flood protection for this city. that can be addressed uniquely by having a directly elected mayor for the city. Minister, can I welcome very much that you're going to send out that invitation to the leaders of the 4 councils. Now, I look forward to that being built on quickly, and I hope that we can see a plebiscite taking place in the middle of next year to allow an election of a mayor for this great city, because I believe this will add to the economic recovery of the country and the city. Don't forget the one element. Over 50% of all taxation that is raised within the Dublin City, the greater Dublin City area. Anything that allows us to attract more foreign direct investment has to be welcomed and has to be pushed on. I welcome the Minister's commitment, and I look forward to an engagement with the citizens of Dublin in bringing forward a plebiscite for mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Humphreys. I now ask for the Minister to make a concluding statement.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and I just want to assure Deputy Humphreys again that I am committed to the concept of a directly elected mayor for Dublin. It is regrettable that in the discussions between the 4 local authorities that they couldn't reach consensus in relation to what should constitute the powers and functions of a directly elected mayor. It certainly wasn't possible for me to ignore the fact that there were some difficulties in one of the local authorities. I would have thought that when I was establishing the forum in order to allow local public representatives, as they existed in the 4 local authority areas, to come together as people that were closest as possible to the citizen and reflect their views, that they should have been able to come to a conclusion. They should have been able to come to a consensus on these issues. And you've mentioned some of the issues that are of concern, particularly to the councillors in Fingal, that perhaps should have been reflected upon a little bit earlier in the process and not taken for granted. But we are, as I say, and I suppose it's a cliche now, we are where we are. And I am certainly going to kickstart the process by having early engagement with the 4 elected Cathaoirleach and mayors of the 4 Dublin authorities in early July. And I look forward to a constructive process in the future that we can meet the objective that Deputy Humphreys and I both want.
Thank you, Minister.